AM Live with Xolani Gwala.
It is now 8 minutes after 8. Once again, good morning to you. Welcome to the Forum at 8 here on SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader. Well, this morning we're looking at the situation in Egypt. You may remember this over the weekend. In fact, it was on Sunday when the electoral authorities in Egypt declared Mohamed Morsi the winner of the election there. And of course, a lot has happened afterwards. People suggesting that perhaps he faces a daunting task of uniting a country that, as clearly pointed out by the election outcome, was very, very divided. But also the burden of taking Egypt forward following about 60 years of effective military fascism is pretty heavy, or will be heavy, on the new president and the Muslim Brotherhood. Well, let's talk about that then, and what we are likely to see then in as far as Egypt is concerned going forward. Let me welcome on our lines then from Cairo, Ishmael Mfaume is our correspondent there. Ishmael, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for your time again this morning, Ishmael. But let me also welcome Naeem Jina. Naeem Jina, of course, also joining us on the line this morning. Good morning to you, Naeem.
Good morning, Xolani.
Good morning.
Thanks indeed. All right, let me start with Ishmael in Cairo. It was interesting that 2 days after the president was elected, he invited some of the people that were injured during the revolution, so to speak, but also he was seen kissing the foreheads of some of the family members whose family or whose relatives died. What is he trying to do here?
Yeah, actually, what he's trying to do is to try to let them know that he is with the revolutionary, because those who were injured during the revolution, which brought, outset the President Mubarak in 25th of January. So he's trying to convince them that he is with them.
Indeed.
And he is supporting what they did actually during the revolution.
He's going to have to do a lot of that, though, considering the fact that also he's going to have to convince the about, 48% of the people that didn't vote for him that even though they didn't vote for him, but he is still a president for all Egyptians.
Yeah, actually, this is what he said in his first speech. He said that I'm a president for those who voted for me and those who voted against me, but I'm a president for all Egyptians, and I'm not going to to discriminate anyone, whether Muslim or Egyptian or whatsoever. I'm a president for all Egyptians. This is what he said.
And some people are suggesting that immediately after the announcement, of course, of the outcome of the election, there's been a lot of behind-the-scenes negotiations about the relationship between himself, the Muslim Brotherhood, and the military. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, actually, this happened because military was supporting Ahmed Shafiq, the opponent of Mohamed Morsi. During the elections, especially during the runoff. So in that case, they wanted to reconcile and to try to clear this atmosphere and to let people, or to let the military and the ruling, the new president to be in good relations. This is what he's trying.
And what are the expectations, though? Are they going to get along? I mean, as you say, that one of the things that has been happening is that over the decades, the military has been chasing, persecuting, arresting Muslim Brotherhood. And, of course, now with the election, they were supporting the president's opponents. Are they likely to get along?
Yeah, actually, this is what people hope, that, the military was, as I have said, arresting even himself, this Mohamed Morsi, during the revolution of 25th of January 2011. He was detained, himself and others. And he managed to be outside, and then as you know that Egypt from the beginning, since 1952, was ruled by military people, starting from Hamad Najib and President Nasser, President Sadat, and Mubarak after that. All these were military people. So this is the first time Egypt to be ruled by a civilian person. So people are very happy for that. And they hope that this new president is going to do a lot for them. Especially there are some files or a challenge waiting for him. If we talk about the domestic challenge, we say that there's unemployment and security. And you know that Egypt depends on tourism in its economy. Mm-hmm. So because security is not good, tourists are not coming to Egypt now. We will have to work very hard during these few months to let tourists to come to Egypt in order to revive this source of financial currency for Egypt. Also, he will have to. He will have to face the heavy corruption legacy, and he will have to try to solve this problem.
All right.
Also, reconciliation between Muslims and Coptic people. Christians who claim that they are not getting their rights here. So he will have to do that. In that case, he promised maybe he will choose one of his vice or assistant, head of state to be a Christian.
Oh, that's interesting because already apparently there are some disputes and that there were some revolutionary factions that were either planning a march or marched to the presidential palace. Apparently they had a march called Beer is Our Right. They are protesting against any attempt by the new president to impose a religious state. There are skeptics in Egypt about what's likely to happen with the Muslim Brotherhood now in the presidency.
No, I don't think that this will happen. These were fears raised among people in Egypt here, and that's why from the beginning they didn't want any Islamists to rule this country, which has got Muslims and the Christians. So he made a speech to say that no, I'm not going to impose any Islamic rule in Egypt. It will be ruled in a secular way. So these fears have already he denied that he is not going to. That will not happen at all.
All right, Ishmael, just hold the line. Let me bring in Naeem Jina here, Executive Director of the Afro Middle East Center. Thanks again, Naeem, for joining us this morning. I would like to pick up from the issues of the military. We're hearing, of course, that there are behind-the-scenes negotiations between the new president, Dr. Morsi, and the military. Firstly, I want to know from you, why does Dr. Morsi need the approval of the military?
Well, at the moment, Morsi is actually in a very difficult position because if you remember what has happened is that the military council has dissolved parliament, so there's no parliament at the moment, and all lawmaking has become the prerogative of the military council. Secondly, just before the election results were announced, a few days before, they issued what they call a constitutional declaration, which effectively stripped the president of most of his powers. So, for example, the president doesn't have the right to declare war. The president doesn't have the right to draw up a budget. Any laws that the military council draws up and submits to the president, he doesn't have the right to veto them. He can only object to them, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. So he's in a position where he has all the trappings of being a president, but he doesn't have all the power of being so. That also is, in a sense, setting him up because, if it remains in this kind of situation, in a year's time or in 100 days' time, people ask, what did our president do for us? Well, very little, because he actually doesn't have the power to do that. So he really needs to work out a deal with the military in order that, firstly, that he can get back the powers that the president has or should have. And secondly, the big thing for him is that Parliament reconvenes. And he's one of the things that he's dug his heels in about, and I hope that he he stands by that, is that he has said that he's only willing to take his oath of office as it's supposed to be taken in front of Parliament, and he's not willing to take it in front of the Constitutional Court, which means that by the 30th of June, when his oath is due to be taken, Parliament should be reconvened. So part of the discussions, the deals going on behind the scenes between him and the military council is the issue of reconvening Parliament.
But here's the thing: if he strikes the deal that you're talking about with the military, does it not risk people saying, well, the more things change, the more they stay the same, because people will continue then saying, well, we're still being ruled by the military in essence?
Well, the fact of the matter is that you had a presidential election, or you had parliamentary elections, you got a democratically elected parliament, then you had presidential elections, you've now got a democratically elected president, but the reality is that the military is ruling. Egypt is still under military rule. The whole point, from his point of view, the whole purpose of these behind-the-scenes discussions is to lessen the role of the military and to work towards a process not in the next 2 days or 2 weeks, but in the medium term, to work towards a process where the military slowly becomes or slowly withdraws to its barracks. Now, I think that for the Muslim Brotherhood, the kind of model that they're looking at is the Turkish model in this regard. If you remember Turkey, the military was all powerful. It was the guardian of secularism and the guardian of all kinds of things in Turkey. The first Islamist government that was elected in the early 2000s was dissolved by the military because it didn't like it. The next one, the AK party, was elected, and slowly over the period of a decade, it has managed to reduce the role of the military to the extent that now you can say that Turkey is actually ruled by a civilian government, and the military is under the rule of a civilian government. I think that's where the Muslim Brotherhood and Mohamed Morsi want to take Egypt, and they realize that this is not something that can be done overnight or even in the space of a few months, that it's going to take a few years to do, but it needs to be done smartly. It needs to be done in a phased way.
All right, let me go back then to Ismail again, because Ismail, I would like you to explain for us the Supreme Court's decision that effectively led to Dr. Morsi being a lame duck president, if you will. What was the decision, or what was behind the decision, and was it justified, or was it the Supreme Court and the military perhaps doing this just so that they render the new president a lame duck?
I'm sorry, I didn't get you well.
What I'm saying is, if you may just explain to us a little bit the processes that led to the Supreme Court's decision that effectively now is seen to have led to Dr. Morsi being a lame duck. What happened there?
Yeah, actually, a decision which taken by the Supreme Council of the military, which was ruling, was because there's no constitution now. So in that case, they said, how can the coming president, how can he lead the country without any constitution? This is why they decided to form that.
All right. So it was
the summary for the constitution.
So it was based on.
I don't think that this is what you wanted to know.
Yeah, no, it is. It was based on purely the fact that there's no constitution.
Yeah.
But how does that affect Parliament then?
Yeah, actually, about the Parliament now, they're still now discussing how to form the new Parliament. But this one will be after the new president has sworn in, and even they're talking about where it's going to sworn in now. Whether it will be in front of the High Court, I mean a Constitutional Court, or in Tahrir Square. Himself, he wants to receive the power in Tahrir Square.
All right.
But the military people say that no, you have to be sworn in front of the Supreme Constitutional Court.
All right.
And this will be only after 2 or 3 days later. That is on Saturday, the coming Saturday.
All right, let me do this.
Let
Let me take a commercial break, but I'm also going to ask perhaps Naeem to take us through this decision that affected Parliament there. What is his understanding of what led to that kind of decision? But also, the lines are open for you now on 0891 104 208, 0891 104 208. I'll be taking your SMSs as well, 34701. How does this affect the geopolitical situation then, the geopolitical environment? What do you think the future of Egypt looks like then after what happened over the past week or so? 34701 is the SMS line here on the program, 0891 104 208.
AM Live with Xolani Gwala.
I'll go to the lines in a minute on 0891 104 208. But Naeem, perhaps you can just give us your understanding of the processes then. You know, as I was saying before the commercial break, if you can just give us an understanding of what happened in the run-up to the dissolution of Parliament.
Okay. So what had happened was two things, actually, two decisions that Parliament made. One was that the court made. One was that the Parliament had issued a law previously saying that previous presidents and prime ministers could not run in the election. Of course, the idea was that this was supposedly an Egyptian revolution, and people from the old guard, the oppressive military dictatorship, shouldn't be allowed to participate in the election. The Supreme Council actually accepted that law, but the Electoral Commission then decided that the law was unconstitutional and sent it to the court, and in the meanwhile allowed Ahmed Shafiq to run. So just before the election results, the court ruled on that and found that the law was unconstitutional and that Ahmed Shafiq actually could run. The second issue was that the Electoral Commission also submitted to the court, or there was a case in front of the court about the Parliament, saying that the 1/3 of the seats in Parliament that had been reserved for independents, that a number of these seats were held by people who belonged to political parties. Now, this is not unusual. If we consider our own municipal elections, you'd find, in a particular ward, someone who happens to be an ANC member, for example, might run as an independent. It's not undemocratic. But what the court decided was that because there were people in that quota for independence who actually were also members of parties, that all of those people in that 1/3 were then disqualified. Which put Parliament into a crisis, because it meant that you need to have another election for those 1/3. The Supreme Council of the Armed Forces then, on the basis of that court decision, dissolved Parliament completely, took upon itself the power to make laws, to replace Parliament.
All right. Faisal and Musa, I'll be with you in a second, but I want to ask this question before I go to my callers. Perhaps I'll start with Ishmael here, because I want to know what the implications for the election of the Muslim Brotherhood will be in the region, the political dynamics in the region, particularly the relationship with Israel. How have the Israelis reacted to this?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. Actually, this result did not please Israel. Israel didn't want him this Morsi to be in power. They wanted Shafiq to be in power. But I think Shafiq will have to solve that problem. That is because Egypt, since the 1979, after the signing of Camp David peace treaty, has become in the front line with Palestinians to try to solve the problem, especially the problem between Palestinians and Israel, which you know that there are some lands still occupied by Israeli people. So anyone who rules Egypt will have to take that position of being in front of with Palestinians to solve the problem. And in that case, he will have to know how to talk with Israeli people. He will have to reconcile them and to be in friendly way, because as you know that Israel have the embassy here in Egypt, and Egypt has an embassy in Israel. Being only two countries all over the Arab world to have diplomatic relation with Israel. That is, Egypt and Jordan.
Sure. Let me quickly ask you, though, about the reaction of the Palestinians, especially in Gaza. There has been a relationship between the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas. What was the reaction in Gaza?
Yeah, actually, especially Hamas. They celebrated for Muslim Brotherhood because the Hamas and the Brotherhood, they have very strong relations. So for them, it is as if they have gained something very important for them to have a president ruling Egypt who is Islamist, who will be in the same way with Hamas, the thing.
And Fatah?
But Egyptian president is going to be with Hamas. Indeed, is president of Egypt. He will have to treat all Palestinians, Fatah and Hamas, in the same way. It's a country which wants to let them reconcile and to let Palestine one country and to be able to face their hostile, Israeli.
All right, just a quick one.
In a good way.
Abu Mazen, Fatah, PA, any comment?
Hello?
Sorry,
I'm saying, was there any comment? I'm going to come back to you in a second now, Naim. I just want to know whether there was any comment from Fatah, the Palestinian Authority, Abu Mazen?
Yes, Abu Mazen also congratulated the new president. Yeah, Abu Mazen congratulated him, saying that what we need is to continue with good relations between us and to let Egypt pioneering the reconciliation between two parts, that is Hamas and the Fatah.
Okay. All right. Let me take sorry to interrupt you. Let me take the news headlines now. When I come back, then I'm going to open the lines again. 0891104208. I'll take SMSs 34701. What do you think then about particularly the geopolitical dynamics then in the region? What happens going forward, especially in relation to the Israeli-Palestinian negotiations, but also the role of Egypt in the continent? Somebody's asked the question on SMS about the AU's position on this. I'm going to ask Naim to explain it if he knows it. What has been the AU's reaction to what is going on in Egypt following the election of Dr. Morsi? But
AM Live with Olani Gwala.
all right, we continue talking about Egypt following the election of Dr. Morsi as the president. Let me just quickly go to the lines then. I'll come back. Naim is going to talk to us about the AU's position and, of course, also the likely implications on the regional dynamics of the election of a candidate from Muslim Brotherhood. Let's start with Mvusi Bishop. Mvusi, hello.
Mpepeto and your guest, good
Hi.
morning.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
You know, just an observation and a question to your panelists.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the interesting thing is that when the Tahrir Square protest started to unfold, we were told it was a people's revolution. And the people of Egypt went to the polls, and the results were delayed. There was a second runoff with parties having a second bite. And again, there were delays in that. And in the process, between the polls and the announcement of results, the military was busy. Now, the question that I have is, maybe before the question, you see, in South Africa, we have got 4 estates. The first, the third, the second, and the fourth estate, which is the media.
Yeah.
And in Egypt, you've got 5. And the fifth one is the military, whether they remove the executive to be number 5, the military being number 1. And my question is, what is the link between what happened before the elections, during the elections, when there was a close attention to the constitution by the military, which changed the rules of the game completely, and the delay of the results? Because to me, it appears as if the results were delayed so that the military could tamper with the constitution, the military could change the rules of the game. What is the link? Could they draw a link in that?
Right.
And what is this thing in terms of the foreign interest in Egypt, because you remember Obama was thrown into the whole Mubarak situation before when he was urged to leave. So I mean, are we still seeing foreign interests taking place in Egyptian politics? Do we need Israel to send Joseph to Egypt for them to get what they want, or do we need Egyptians to use the same spirit that they had, to have the army relinquish power and go back to the barracks to be employed by government?
All right, Mvusi Ebisho, thank you very much. Thanks indeed. Faisal is in Mayfair. Hello, Faisal.
Hi, Tulani.
Hey, how's it?
Tulani, look, what I previously stated on Time Magazine, and I'm stating again, this revolution in Egypt, the Arab Spring in Egypt, is not a revolution for human rights, democracy, and freedom. It's a revolution where a particular bunch of people had got hurtful of the dictators, and they want to replace one dictator with another set of dictators. I mean, if you want to talk of a revolution for human rights, then you have to ask yourself, what are the conditions of women in Egypt? Are they similar to the conditions of women in South Africa? Are gays and lesbians going to get equal rights in that particular country? Are we going to have religious freedom where Hindus and pagans are going to have equal worship in Egypt as well? I mean, there's so many problems with the human rights records in Egypt. So therefore, I think in this particular revolution is just one shuffling of dictators' chairs.
All right, so that's Faisal in Mayfair. Naeem is in Alberton. Hello, Naeem.
Hello, greetings to you and your guests.
Hi.
It's amazing that in international politics is like an iceberg. You know, what we see is only the 10% above the water, and the 90% that happens beneath the scenes, you know, behind the scenes, the arm twisting. What role is the CIA currently playing? What is the links between the U.S. and the Egyptian military? What is the role of NGOs? A couple of months ago, a whole number of NGOs were imprisoned, and then they were kind of behind the scenes deals, and they were kind of taken out of the country. There's a whole lot of arm twisting and blackmailing and bribery going on behind the scenes that we don't even know of. So how do you analyze a situation when we don't even know, really speaking, what is actually happening?
All right, Naeem in Alberton. Thank you, Naeem. I'll take more calls, by the way. 0891 104 208, 0891 104 208. Ishmael, let me start with you. My callers are very skeptical about what may be happening, particularly behind the scenes.
Hello?
Yes, Ishmael, you heard my callers.
Yeah, okay.
Answers,
Are
please.
you saying?
I'm saying answer, please. You heard what my callers had to say.
Yeah, actually what he said, I've been following him, what he said. Indeed, I just want to say that Egypt now, anyway, there are so many, as I've said, that challenge would be facing Egypt. And I think one of them, the most one, actually the most, if we talk about, let me...
Okay, all right, don't worry about it. Think about it. Let me come to Naeem. Naeem, there's just so much being said about Egypt there. I suppose Ishmael is finding it a little difficult to respond to some of the allegations because some of them are very serious.
Firstly, Faisal's call, I think, you know, when people rise up in the way they do, they overthrow a dictator, they reclaim the space as the people's space. I think we should give them some time to make their decisions. They don't have a constitution yet. They need to draw up a constitution. His kind of negativity about, well, what about women's rights? Well, let's see what they're going to do before we decide that they're going to do the wrong thing. They don't have a constitution. They've got a long way to go still. So let's give them a chance.
Sure.
The first caller, I think, two important points. One is about the role of the military. He's correct. I mean, the military has played a role from the very beginning of the uprising, the very smart role that would, its attempt was that its role would ensure that the military continued to have the kind of power, even in a democratic Egypt, as it did in a pre-democratic Egypt. The military has been ruling Egypt now for 6 decades. They want to continue doing so. They want to control the politics. They want control over a large part of the economy. They already own 40% of the economy. They want control over relations. They now also have control over legislative power. So they want to protect all of those powers that they had. And all of the machinations that he talks about, that the caller talks about, that took place during the elections and all of that, he's absolutely correct. The military was playing a game that would manipulate the results, that would manipulate the situation in a way that they would be able to maintain power. The challenge now is that once Parliament reconvenes, that the Parliament, together with a democratically elected president, the challenge is to see how well they will do in undermining that power that's been accumulated by the military, and in slowly pushing the military back into the barracks. On the international question, which is also a question that your last caller, Naeem, I think it was, raised, the international intervention in Egypt is quite substantial. I mean, Egypt is a very important country. The Egyptian military has been for a few decades now the second largest recipient of American aid after Israel, and that aid continues. While the uprisings were taking place in Tahrir Square early last year, and there were calls for Mubarak to stand down, Field Marshal Tantawi, who now heads the Supreme Council of the Armed Forces, as well as other members of the military council, were sitting in the United States discussing these matters with the Pentagon in strategies. So at that level, there's strong foreign intervention. But also, as the last caller said, there's diplomats, there's NGOs linked to various American and European political parties that are just handing out money in Egypt, particularly to youth organizations, to train them how to use the internet, to train them in democracy, as if the models of democracy that we see existing in the two-party state in the United States is something that Egypt should learn from. And so all this training that's going on, particularly for youth in Egypt, is also a form of foreign intervention. I mean, NGOs linked to the Democratic or the Republican Party in the U.S., for example, and European countries have been there from the beginning of last year, continue to be there, and often in a very patronizing way think that they can teach other people democracy, when in fact Egyptians have a lot to teach Americans about democracy, judging by the past year and a half.
Let's take some more calls here, Naeem, if we may, on 0891 104 208, 0891 104 208. I'll also read some SMSs, but let me go to Susan in Ilovo. Hello, Susan.
Hi, Kalani. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for your call.
Kalani, I don't know what the hoo-ha is about with the Brotherhood. I mean, look at the good that they've done with their communities inside Egypt. The Egyptians aren't silly. They've voted with their feet. We must just trust that they know what they want. We can't second-guess them. I think the world should grow up and get over it and get over their Ikhwanophobia and Islamophobia, whatever it is, and just accept the fact that the people want them in this place, in this position, and be done with it.
That's interesting. I'll get my guest to respond to that, Susan. Thank you very much. 0891 104 208. Let me read one or two SMSs before getting responses. Spio in KZN says, the way Egyptians are so addicted to street sitting, even after the election of this Dr. Morsi, give them a month or so and they'll be back at Tahrir Square. Another one says, is Egypt going to another election to elect parliamentary members? There is also John who says, the military is in charge in Egypt, just like the ANC is here. And both of these do as they want. There is no such thing as democracy. Ike says, USA don't want democracy in Egypt. They are trying to protect Israel. And what is wrong if Egypt votes for an Islamist? There's also Sonny who says Egypt and other Muslims are daydreaming of Islamizing Africa. And another one says, unfortunately, the ANC will never grant our voters the democratic right to elect a president. I'll take more calls, 0891 104 208. Naeem, do you want to respond to Susan? Because obviously, at the core of what she's saying is that there's a lot of Islamophobia about how people are reacting to the election of Dr. Morsi.
Yeah, well, I like the term that she used. I'm not sure whether she used it inadvertently, Ikhwanophobia, which I think is relevant in this case. That there's this whole kind of hype around the Muslim Brotherhood, or in Arabic, Ikhwanul Muslimun, and I think the earlier caller Faisal kind of encapsulated that. It's just negativity, because it's the Muslim Brotherhood. There's going to be no women's rights. There's going to be no religious freedom, etc. Without giving them any chance to say exactly what they're going to do and to do what they want to do. The statements that have come out from Morsi, his acceptance speech, have been all about unity, about including Christians. I think Ismail made a comment earlier on about Morsi's statement that he wants one of his vice presidents to be a Christian, that they're not going to undermine the rights of women, etc. Let's also remember that under Mubarak, Christians and women didn't have a great time. I mean, while the uprisings were taking place, we might remember that there were a few churches bombed, and it was later found out that those churches were bombed on instructions from Mubarak's interior ministry. The deal that women have had in Egypt hasn't been great, except for those in the elite. So I think that these are challenges that a new government faces. Whatever that government is going to be, whether they call themselves Islamist or they call themselves liberal or they call themselves socialist, these and challenges around socio-economic issues, etc., are what they face. And let's give them a chance to see what kind of constitution. We make decisions that simply because of their label they must be bad. That also relates to one of the SMSs. This notion that because Egypt now has a president who belongs to or used to belong to the Muslim Brotherhood, that they're now going to Islamize Africa, whatever that means. And there's no indication from them that they have any intention of Islamizing anything, including Egypt. I think that, and one of your earlier questions, I think that what's important for us is to see how the new president, Muslim Brotherhood president, is going to bring Egypt back into the African Union. Remember that Mubarak has not attended an African Union meeting in years. The Muslim Brotherhood has made statements saying that they are committed to being part of the African continent, of being part of the African Union and playing a role in the African Union. I think that's something that we should be welcoming them back into the fold in a sense, and hope that it is a strong and an effective role for Egypt and North Africa.
Okay. All right, let me take another break and we'll take more calls on 0891 10428 straight afterwards. 0891 10428. Interestingly, the name of Mohamed Al-Baradei has been floated among some of the people that may be co-opted into the new government. Is it because perhaps Dr. Morsi wants somebody that may be acceptable to the West, that may be acceptable to the international community? We'll hear from my guest in a minute.
AM Live with Olani Gwala.
Naeem, Mohamed Al-Baradei, the former IAEA head, what do you think?
I think that there's two intentions behind this idea being floated that he'll be included. I think there was also a rumor that he might be the new prime minister. One is, as you say, it would give a greater sense of international legitimacy because Baradei is well accepted in the international community. But the second one is that internally or domestically, that Baradei has the support of a number of the liberal groups, including some of the youth groups. And Morsi wants to give the impression, or wants to present himself and his government as being one that represents all Egyptians. He's very conscious of the fact that some of the youth groups feel like they've been alienated from the political process, that none of the people that they supported for president made it into the runoff, and so he wants to draw them in as much as he wants to maintain the confidence of those who supported Ahmed Shafiq and the army. He also wants to maintain the support or the confidence of the youth revolutionaries that took to Tahrir Square at the beginning of last year.
Ismail, I hope that you're still there, because the issue of Ahmed Shafiq actually raises a very broad question about what then is going to happen to those who are seen to be the vestiges, if you will, of the past, those who are linked very directly with the Hosni Mubarak regime.
Yeah, I don't think that anything is going to happen because already, Mohamed Shafiq has said that he's going to forget all what has been passed. So those who are they are not charged with anything. They are not going to be taken in any consideration, and I think they'll be welcomed to join the government if they want.
That's going to be.
This is what I think. All this is what the media here in Egypt say.
It's going to be interesting to watch. But here's another issue. Then
it means to open a new chapter and forget what has passed. Except those who are charged with some mistakes. This, of course, they will have to be presented to the court and to be charged. But others, such as we can say who that, Shafiq himself and other people, because these people are innocent. Yeah.
Just pick up a little bit of, if you may, on the name of Mohamed Al-Baradei, the IAEA or the former IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency chief. What are people's reaction in Egypt at the moment in relation to the floating of his name?
Yeah, actually, a lot of people, they like him, and even Islamists also, they say that the man is internationally actually well-known, and he was succeeded in what he was doing as the chief director of the International Atomic Agency. So the problem only was by that time they said that he's married to a foreigner. His wife is Syrian. This is why he was disqualified from the candidacy of presidency. This is why he was unable, and he withdrew his name earlier. But apart from that, Egyptian community accept him without any problem.
Does that mean that he stands a chance of being Prime Minister?
My colleague said that there's a rumor that maybe he may become the Prime Minister. This is true. I hear from here and there that maybe he may be appointed the Prime Minister and he will be accepted by people.
All right, that would be interesting to watch. All right, we're wrapping up now, and perhaps starting again with you, Ishmael. When are the formalities then getting underway, including the issue of the inauguration of the president?
Yeah, actually, what is unclear up to this moment is that where is he going to be sworn in?
Yeah, whether it will be at the Tahrir Square.
Is it going to take place in Tahrir Square as himself likes, or is it going to be in the Supreme Court of a Constitutional Court? This is how it's not well known.
All right, just coming back to
other preparations are underway now to wait for that day where military Supreme Council will hand over the authority of the country.
Yeah.
That is the coming Saturday.
Yeah. All right, Naeem, as we wrap up, then I would like to know from you what you think the future holds for. Of course, I'm asking you to predict the future for Egypt.
I think the immediate future is going to be pretty difficult. You're going to have, on the one hand, a tussle between the democratically elected institutions, parliament and the president, and on the other hand, the military and those structures that historically have supported the military and been put in place there, including the judiciary, etc. So that tussle will continue, and I think that the Muslim Brotherhood and Mohamed Morsi are going to try and mediate that in a quiet kind of way, so that it doesn't continue erupting. Secondly, that Egyptians, have broken the barrier of fear, and yes, as one of your callers said, they will take to the streets when they think that their rights have been undermined. So that'll continue happening. And thirdly, I think that there's huge challenges for any new government in terms, particularly of addressing the expectations that have been created over the past year.
Okay.
In any situation like in South Africa, you move from dictatorship into a democracy, and people feel that now everything is going to be okay. So the new government is going to have huge challenges in meeting in addressing the levels of poverty, unemployment, and all of those kinds of things. And we wait to see whether they're up to the challenge.
All right. I really thank you both for coming through and talking to us this morning. Naeem Jina is Executive Director at the Afro Middle East Center, and I also would like to thank Ishmael Mfome, who is our correspondent in Cairo, talking to us this morning about the dynamics in that regard. I really thank the team as well who put it all together for you this day. What we will do is we will be back for you on Midday Live here on SAFM. We'll be updating you on what's happening here at the ANC's National Policy Conference. From myself then and the team here in Midrand at the moment, it's time for us to say thank you very much for listening. And coming up is Morning Talk with Sigalelom Kabadeli here on SAFM. It's just about to be 9 o'clock. 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 Just about to be 9 o'clock.